Hi, this is Rena from Quilt Israel, and it's time for the next block in our quilt along. And this week, we have a block called the Virginia Reel. The cool thing about this block is it uses a block called a flying geese. In this case, it's using 8. I'm going to show you 2 different methods for making them. Both one at a time and also no waste 4 at a time flying geese. I hope you enjoy. I've already cut up all my pieces, so these are for 3.5 inch squares, and these are 6.5 by 3.5, and these are for the individual ones. And for the main color, which is the geese as opposed to the background, is going to be 7.25 inch square, and these over here, these are 3 7/8. I cut out most of my fabrics already, but I thought I would spend a little time showing a little trick that I like to do to make cutting weird sizes a little bit easier. So because these squares are 3 7/8, as opposed to hitting exactly on the inch mark or the half inch mark, or even the 1/4 inch mark. So what I like to do is I like to take my ruler and I like to find where the 3 7/8 is on the ruler. Then I'll take just plain old washi tape and I'll rip a little bit off of it and I'll mark it, but I don't want to cover all of the ruler, all the side, because I want to be able to see where it hits. But this way, if I just put a little piece of washi tape on the 7/8, which is the one right before the 4, the 3 7/8 is right there. If I do put the washi tape here, I can still see where my ruler's aligned at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to take my rotary cutter and just give a slice, and then I don't have to look that hard where the 7/8 is because it's already marked. And I need 4 of these. So that's 3. And last but not least, anything I can do to save thinking, I do. I like to think as little as possible. If I have my ruler pre-marked, I'm always going to hit the correct line when I do my cutting. Okay, so these I'm going to put on the side. These are for the 4 at a time flying geese. And so now we're going to put those on the side, and we're going to start first with our 1 at a time method. If you wanted to make all of these the same color, you could do the 4 at a time twice. So the first thing I'm going to do is these are my geese colors, and this is my background for the geese. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align corner to corner, and I'm going to take a marking tool and I'm just going to mark directly from corner to corner. This is actually the line that I'm going to be sewing on. So that's 1. We need 2 for each geese. Now I can take this fabric to the sewing machine. Okay, so here we are at our sewing machine with our rectangles and our squares. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to put our squares, 1 on each rectangle. We're going to start from the top corner, and we're going to sew on the line we drew from the top corner of the block all the way to the bottom. And this is what we get after we sew the line. I'm going to continue now, and I'm going to chain sew the next 3. Now I'm just going to separate them, and I'm going to take them to the cutting board. We have our 4 rectangles here, and what we're going to do next is we're just going to make a cut 1/4 of an inch from the line that we just sewed down, and just cut this off. Now we can save this and we can use it later for something else, but this is not going to be used in our project now. At this point, we're going to take it to the ironing board, and we're just going to press each one of these open. Okay, we have our 4 pieces, and now we're ready to sew the other 4 marked lines. We're going to start the same way, except that was the right side, so now we're going to do the left side of the geese. Line it all up. It should overlap. Don't be afraid if it's overlapping the existing geese. That's a good thing. As a little bit of a backup, I use something called diagonal seam tape, which marks the center line and 1/4 of an inch on either side of the needle. I can also line up tip at the top and the tip at the bottom. Just pay attention to those 2 tips and sew down. And I'm going to chain piece just the same way that I did last time. As a bonus tip, if you want to make some half square triangles from the leftover fabric to use in another project, one of the things you can do is you can sew a 1/2 inch from the original sew line. That way you'll have 1/4 inch on either side where you're going to be doing the cutting. You can either just eyeball it or you can mark it yourself. I'm just going to eyeball it here. Try to keep it parallel, about 1/2 inch. Okay, the same way as before, I measure 1/4 inch from the sew line and I make a cut. This leaves me with both a flying geese and a half square triangle. I'm not going to be using this half square triangle in this project, but it could be that maybe a future project that I can use that. Now we have our 4 flying geese. All that's left is to press them down. Okay, so here we are. Now we're going to do the 4 at a time flying geese. So to do them, so basically the way it works, I'll just explain to you the math. The way it works is the finished block, what we want is after it's sewn together, which does not include seam allowance, is we want a 6 inch by 3 inch block. So you take the measurement for the 6 and you add 1 1/4 inches. So this is going to be 7 1/4, and by, it's a square, so 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. And these squares is what we're doing is we're going to add 7/8 of an inch to the finished size. So if it's, since we said it was going to be 6 by 3, the finished size for this would be 3, and that's why we cut 3 7/8 for this part of the block. So what I'm going to do here now is I am going to draw a line from corner to corner on each of these different, each of the 4 squares here. So now that all of our squares are marked, what we're going to do is we are going to place one at the top, or whatever corner, and one at the bottom corner. And we are going to sew a 1/4 inch from each side of the block. In this case, to make sure it's all going nice and straight, I'm going to pin across each of the lines. Just to hold it all in place. And I will sew a 1/4 inch on one side and then a 1/4 inch back the other side. Here we are back at the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch from either side of the line that I drew. It's okay if over here it's overlapped. As a matter of fact, it's supposed to be. It's meant to do that. So just make sure that when you're sewing that each of these corners overlap the other. It doesn't matter which is on the top, which is on the bottom. You can choose. And here we are. And now the next step is to cut down the line and press the sides open. And here I'm just going to cut from corner to corner. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to press these open. And now we have pretty hearts. But that's not what we're trying to have. These are nicely pressed open, and it doesn't look nearly anything like a flying geese. But it will, I promise. The next thing I want to do is I want to place the last 2 corners, which will basically be a 1/4 inch, comes out to basically where these 2 will hit. So go figure how nice that works out. Once again, I'm just going to pin these so that they don't move. I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side. And I am going to cut down the middle. And it'll be magic, I promise. So now we're at our sewing machine, and it's time to sew on either side of the drawn line a 1/4 inch. And now we get to cut again. So here we are. And all we have to do is cut from corner to corner. And our flying geese are goosed. I don't know if that's a word. That's 2. And here we got another 2. One, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take them and I'm going to press them, and then I'm going to square them up. So now we're ready to square our geese. And what we need is a geese that is 3.5 by 6.5 inches. So what I like to do is, there's a 45-degree mark on my ruler. I'm going to match that to one of the sides of the geese, because that's like really important to me, that's going to be the way I want it. And I'm just going to snip off a little bit over there, and that's my 6.5 mark. and my 3.5, and I'm just going to clean it up. A little bit off of here and a little bit off of there, and I have a beautiful squared up flying geese. That's one. Here's another method for squaring up flying geese. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the bottom goes to the 3.5 mark. And from there, I want my points, this point and this point from the geese, to be at the edges. So I will have it on the 3.5 inch mark, cut up and cut over. Then I will rotate my goose. And once again, here I also have a 45-degree angle mark that I can also measure against. The top looks good. I'm just going to continue with the rest of the geese now. So I'll do that for the rest of the geese. I need to do the same thing on my one at a time flying geese as well. What we're going to do now is we're going to pair them. We don't have to make a decision yet on the order that we're actually going to put them in the block. We just need to match a one at a time flying geese with a 4 at a time flying geese. When I'm sewing flying geese specifically, what I like to do is I like to sew from the side that has the point. That way, when I'm sewing my 1/4 inch, if I'm a little bit off, I can try to hit the little crosshairs here while I'm going down to sew. I'm going to take these now to the sewing machine. So here we are back again at the sewing machine. When I sew my flying geese, I'm going to aim for the point where the two stitch lines intersect. That way it'll ensure that I get a nice point when I'm sewing. If I were to sew from this side, I can't see where they hit. So I'm sewing blind. This way I can try to get the nicest point I can. And now when I open it up, you see I kept my point. I'm going to continue and I'm going to sew the rest of the flying geese together. When I press, I'm going to press to fewer seams. This can have bulk because of all the seams coming together. So I'm going to press towards the top, or towards the point. Now it's time for placement. Yeah, I think I like it like this. I have the jade and the yellow catty-corner to each other and the pink and the purple. Now I'm just gonna, same way as before, we're gonna sew the 4 patch together. Black is done. I'm going to give it another press just to finish it off. Our Virginia reel block is done. I hope you enjoyed making your flying geese, both 4 at a time and 1 at a time. If you'd like to learn more about the quilt along, click on the playlist over here. And if you found this useful, please like the video. Thank you so much.